nation, we hunting, we hungry, we celebrating, turning nothing to something and celebrating. Markets changing, recalibrating. The first to get acclimated is the first to stack the payments, but you need to act with patience, but be careful waiting, cause this opportunity won't last forever before it is evaporated. So if you want to flip some houses, hit me up to make a plan. Your flip deserves the upper hand.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and in today's episode, I kind of want to pose a pretty big question. And that is flipping dead in 2026? There's just been a lot of articles that have come out lately. Obviously, we're in a lot of turmoil as a world. We've got wars going on in the Middle East. We've still got high interest rates. We've got high unemployment. We've got, immigration problems. Again, we got decreasing pricing in Denver. So not to be Debbie Downer, but I think it's a super legit question. Is flipping dead in Denver right now? The good news is, sneak peek, I think that it's a no, but tune into today's episode and we'll catch you guys up on why we think that's the case and what you can do to combat that issue that people have. If you think Denver real estate is slowing down, actually, I would say think again. It's all about knowing where the deals are, sticking to your deal analysis guidelines, and then just being a creative problem solver and looking for ways to add value, especially when you're going direct to sellers. So today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 hotspots in Denver that we still see that flipping is going really, really well. We're going to talk about some lead gen strategies that I'm using right now with my team that are absolutely working. And then I'm going to tell you guys some rookie mistakes to avoid. So if we can hit those 3 things, I think we can provide a lot of value in today's episode. As you guys know, I'm a data nerd, self-professed, but I think it's one of the most important things to help you understand, are we really on track as a market? Are you on track as a business owner? Are you on track as a flipper or a real estate agent? And so I think you need to look at a couple things. So I want you guys to think about probably 4 major points from a very high level. I want you to think about competition within the space. Right now, I do feel like we actually have a little bit less competition, both as some real estate agents have gotten out of the game, some real estate investors have gotten out of the game, a lot of the part-time folks have kind of gotten out of the game. So that has kind of worked its way through in a really challenging 23, 24, even 25. So I think that's the good thing. So the people that have stayed with it, keep on keeping on, and you guys keep keeping the good fight. I think the other thing is inventory is going in a better direction, meaning about 2 years ago, we had as much as 13, 14, 15,000 homes on the market in Metro Denver at any given point. Right now, recording this in March of 2026, we're just over 8,000 units. And so that's helping things. They call that absorption. Like stuff is actually selling and we don't have a monstrous amount of inventory coming back on the market. The other thing is I want to give a shout out to Megan Aller at First American Title. She does a great job of summarizing this data. So I would say get on her weekly Zooms, pay for her data. She does a really, really good job. Obviously, I'm sure she wants you guys to, bring her title business. So shout out to Megan. Listen to this stat, you guys. Okay, if you price your property right, meaning either it's a flip or even just a traditional homeowner house, if it's priced right, and right is meaning what does the data tell you? Not what do you think your special snowflake house is worth? What did you get stuck putting more rehab money into it? What does the market tell you today it should be priced at? It will go under contract within 1, maybe 2 weeks at the longest, and you'll be roughly 100.1% of list price, meaning you're getting what you're asking for. There's a bunch of data points in between them, but if you fast forward only 90 days down the road, the average price concession across Metro Denver, again, this is all price points, so don't at me, bro, it's like this in Beaumont and that in Arvada. Yes, everything is different. But again, general Metro Denver, you do it right day one, you're getting asking price. You wait and kick the can down the road 3 months later, you're doing multiple price cuts, and on average, you're selling for 88% of list price. That's a big decrease. Obviously on our house, that's 50, 60K of price concessions versus had you just priced it right up front, you save 3 months of mortgage payments or 3 months of hard money interest payments. You can get on to doing whatever else you're going to do with your life or invest in another flip or whatever. So that's a really big one. Again, price it right day one, you get 100%. Don't, you could suffer 90 days later or an 88%, or obviously it gets worse after that. The other thing is follow the 10-year treasury. Sadly, it has bounced around a crazy amount because there's a very direct correlation of what the 10-year treasury is to what owners and homeowners are actually paying for interest rates. The good news is that spread is compressing. When we had high rates in the mid sevens, there was about a 3% difference of what the treasury was yielding versus how much you had to pay to get a 30-year mortgage. That has come down a little bit. So rates have slowly come down. They're still in right around the sixes as we record today. When stuff bumps into the fives, we see an immediate spike of activity from buyers. So it's trending in the right direction. There's also $100 billion worth of purchasing and investing that the administration is and President Trump is pushing that is on the balance sheets for Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Those are things that are controlled by the administration, and you can't control the Fed. Again, that's a discussion for another day. But in general, I think that's going to help interest rates get a little better. We're not going back to the threes. We're not going back to the fours unless there's another worst case event, which that's a different podcast. And so I think the other thing that you really want to look at is get your spreads right, meaning you have to have a spread from what you're buying it for to what you're selling it for. If you don't have a $200,000 spread on your deals, it's probably not the best deal unless the rehab is super cosmetic. We're normally looking at $250,000 spreads for what I'm buying it for compared to what I'm selling it for if it needs a pretty major overhaul and rehab. So I'm talking $75K to about $150K. And then when you've got those full gut jobs, meaning it needs everything, it needs every major system, it needs new kitchens, bathrooms, like it really is a beat up house, we normally need about $300,000 in spread. So if you can't create that by either having it at the right buy price, or I should say the asking price that you're going to offer the seller, just move on and do something next. So again, high level, hit those points. If you want to turn off the podcast after this, those are the things you really want to focus on today. So guys, as always, I really want to tell you what we're seeing right now actively in today's market in Metro Denver. Yes, we teach this. Yes, we have communities and academies and school communities and the Elevation Academy. We're not a guru that's going to bullshit you. We're not somebody that's teaching you something from another market. Let me give you guys 3 submarkets that we're seeing great activity in right now. Again, these are places that we're doing business. Our clients are doing business. This is not some guru bullshit thing that we're telling you that I just threw into ChatGPT or that somebody who's flipping in another market says, ooh, these are great in Denver. Like this is stuff we're doing business in today. Right now, number 1 for us is Arvada. That has actually always remained a great submarket to flip in. You're much closer to getting to the mountains. There's great downtown areas. There are typically very good school districts in Arvada for families to lean into. So those ones, if you buy right and you list right, man, those go really, really well. So overall, Arvada, if you can get lucky and be close to the cute downtown, that's even better. We've got a flip going right now by Stanley Lake. That's a really great price point. So Arvada, lean into that submarket. The second one is the Santa Fe Arts District, also known as the Baker neighborhood. So you got to be a little careful because there's a lot of homes in there that are designated historic, and that means you got to do a different level of rehab. That is code for you're going to spend more money. But it's a super vibrant area. Obviously, we think that the Broncos' new stadium is going to go in there, so that helps a ton. There's also sellers that have been there for a long time. They're like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to cash out and move on. So that's a really great area. We are selling a flip next week. It will be hopefully my best podcast ever and maybe get me viral of my 5-year flip from hell. So again, different episode, but we're actually seeing we listed a property at $550. We got multiple offers. We had 17 showings in 1 week, sold for above asking price, and that closes next week. So by the time this is out, hopefully you'll hear me scream from the rooftops and we'll have a big party at the Broadway Collective. But the Santa Fe Arts District, that's a really, really great spot. It's hot. It's going really well. And then the third one is, again, kind of like a true niche market. And that is Aurora, but it's Aurora that feeds into Cherry Creek proper high school. So there's a lot of other Cherry Creek district schools that are good schools, don't get me wrong, but we see a massive premium where you're really close to the Denver Tech Center. Kids are feeding into Cherry Creek High, which is obviously a very desirable school for kiddos to go to, so parents want to be there. You have the Aurora address, which for some people is a no-go, but you kind of get this great bang for your buck and this great pricing. So again, Aurora address feeding into Cherry Creek High School proper. And obviously staying, kind of under $1 million is important. In that area, you got to be a 10 out of a 10 finish, meaning it needs to look like HGTV. If you're going to just do a cosmetic lipstick on a pig, I see people kind of getting burned. But those are 3 really, really good submarkets that I want you guys to think about. Okay, topic number 2 is flipping dead in Denver. This is another thing that I want you to key in on. And again, my answer is no, but obviously we got to have some leads. And so the 3 different lead gen areas that is really working today well for elevation is it's old school, but cold calling. We have a third party cold calling company that makes a tremendous amount of calls on our behalf. And then my acquisitions team gets fairly warm leads. And with warm, I'll use air quotes. Sometimes they still tell us to F off, or that they want $1 million for a $500,000 house. But there's still some gold that you can get from there. And a lot of our recent deals have been from our cold calling efforts. So it's a little kind of chicken or the egg. You can pull data yourself. You can do the calling yourself. You can hire virtual assistants to call for you, and you're going to be in the high hundreds and low thousands of dollars a month to do that program yourself. Or the way that we do it is, yes, we spend several $1,000s a month, but we kind of have that piece done for us so that we can get a couple hundred leads delivered to our front doorstep. And that's the way we're doubling down with elevation. So that is working really, really well. The second thing, it seems very kind of simple, but it is really making those direct agent connections and searching for pocket listings. Again, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, the people that are working today are the people that really are in it for the long haul. I'd call them more full-time agents, a little more professional than the part-time COVID agents during COVID that sold a couple houses and everything went well. So lean into those relationships. We've had some great deals come our way. One of our best deals last year was from a house that got tear gassed and shut the whole neighborhood down. It was an agent that referred us that deal. And obviously they're not selling that thing freaking normal retail. So lean into your agent connections, be valuable, and take care of people. One kind of anecdote I'm thinking of on the spot is sometimes if people are like, hey, my seller really needs to get this price, if I can't even come close to touching that price, I'm going to give you 2 different strategies. One is just give them a verbal and say, hey, you know what? I know your person, for whatever reason, needs 600. The best case, I'm in the low 5s. So if that's of interest, I will write it up and I will send it your way. But I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your client's time. Actually, look at it this way. If you're talking to an agent and they can't get their client to a reasonable price, even though they're trying to do a great job, give them an offer. And at least they then go to their client and say, hey, I know you're hell-bent on 600. We've looked at the data. I don't see how we can get here. Here's an offer for 505 and it'll close in 2 or 3 weeks. And at least maybe it brings the seller's guard down. So you can kind of help your agents or verbally help them out. So just think of it in 2 different fashions. And then the other one is, and I've kind of, again, preached this, but you got to go back to basics. I'm a football guy at heart, so it's like called the blocking and the tackling. Like this is the 101. But lean into a couple different seller pain point areas. And by lean in, I mean commit to being in this marketing vein for at least 6 months and add value to people. So whether it's people going through divorce problems, whether it is a trust or estate or a probate business category, working with those attorneys. We still do a ton in the senior citizen and older adult space. So lean into that. Downsizing is obviously a big one. We've got a lot of baby boomers that kids are either already out of college, they're getting into college. They don't need these big houses. So lean into those different verticals. People always ask me about foreclosures. I still don't see that happening in Denver. There's not a lot of that going on. So we don't personally invest our time. But again, think of those 3 core areas of how do you do your business development and lead gen. And I think you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to help a lot of people. Okay, as we come down the home stretch of today's episode, we talked about rookie mistakes to avoid. So I want you guys to think through this. The big thing is, and again, I hate to say it, but people are still overestimating what comps are and what you think you can get from an ARV perspective, or again, after repair value. When I fix it up, how much can I sell it for? So here's another thing is, right now, the average amount of concessions when you sell on the back end is $13,000 in Metro Denver. So if a house, you're saying, hey, there's a good comp, it's similar, it's fixed up, it's sold for 700, you actually got to take 13 grand off that. So think about it. If your net profit is $50,000 and you're eating 13K because you didn't identify it up front, that's a large chunk of your profit. Some people say, oh, it's only, 2 or 3% of the list price. No, that's like 30% of your actual profit. So that's really, really important. The other thing is style from a comp perspective. Man, we've been in a bunch of properties lately where whether it's the seller telling us their house is worth more than it is, or more importantly, an inexperienced investor is saying, ooh, there's this great 2-story Victorian beautiful home, and then I have a janky buy level. Like, I'm not selling it for the same thing. I really have to give a discount. And if you miss on not getting a deal, you miss on not getting a deal. So, those similar styles are great. We do live in Metro Denver. So there's times where you're like, dang it, I can't find the same style house. That's okay. Obviously, give it your best shot. Just don't overestimate. We see that a lot. And the third thing is, in today's environment, we're looking at it ourselves and we're really looking at it for our clients that we wholesale to, is still busier roads are still kind of a deal breaker. I get it. Like, it's still sellers and buyers, people have choices. Like I said earlier, there's 8,000 homes for sale right now. Like, they don't have to jump at every deal. So sometimes you can have the appropriate discount for selling a house on a busier street. Sometimes it's just not enough. We had one of our wholesales fall through that we thought a $50,000 essentially lower sales price than the identical comp. And it wasn't even that busy, but it was across the street from a school. There are a lot of people that just didn't like it. And so unfortunately that deal fell apart and we didn't want to go back to the seller and retrade it because we could have sold it retail for them. So again, we're trying to provide solutions, but be careful of busy roads. Again, it's 101. And even though sometimes you think you can do that discount, you might not hit it correctly. The other two things, obviously underestimating rehab budgets. That is 101. Right now, you always have to factor in your contingencies. So if you've got an old beat up house or something that needs tons of love, set aside 15% of your budget. That is your contingency. I guarantee you will dip into that. Don't let your contractor know that because they'll automatically spend up to that point, but you got to have those contingencies. Again, we're not seeing prices going down. Labor, it's hit and miss. Sometimes people aren't busy and they want to do a deal, but material costs, those are surely not going down. Like I said, with the, war going on right now and the price of oil going up, like, it's not going to make things any cheaper. So don't underestimate your rehab budgets. And then the other thing is ignoring kind of red signals for a lot of investors. So we talked about busy roads, schools. Again, I guess it's a positive and a negative sometimes. If it's a family, they want to be in a good school district. I always look at it as if it's at an elementary school and we're targeting young families, then being close to that school and kids walking there is actually a positive. But if you are targeting, let's say a townhome and it's a baby boomer who's downsizing and it's across the street from a school that, man, the drop-off line is like 10 miles long and everybody's drinking their Starbucks, not paying attention and holding up traffic, that's actually kind of a detriment. The other one that we see a lot, and again, I think people underestimate it, are major power lines. So again, look at your comps. If you've got a neighborhood where you've got kind of the same power lines going in the backyard for everybody, okay, that's fine. But we had a client once who bought a property and it was in a great school district, a great area, but there was a monstrous power line. Technically, it wasn't on his property. It was on the outside of the fence, but it was huge. And even though, again, we thought we had an appropriate discount, this is one that we were brought in to consult after the fact. We got a lot of feedback from sellers. They're like, I love this house. It's the cheapest house in the neighborhood. But you could hear the power lines buzzing. So again, there's certain times you might just want to say no. The last thing is when I kind of think about comps, you have to be super, super careful of those busy roads. And not from what we just talked about of do you buy on a busy road or not. It's all about how does that define a neighborhood. And so I'll probably record a Loom video on this actually now that I'm thinking of it out loud. There's a part in central Denver called Crisana Park. And it's a really, really cool, super, super teeny neighborhood that's about 6 or 7 streets wide and only about 3 streets deep. If you pull, your classic quarter-mile radius when you're pulling comps, when you go in the MLS, it draws you a circle. There is honestly almost a $200,000 difference of Crisana Park versus non-Crisana Park. And the crazy thing is Crisana Park are these beautiful mid-century modern homes typically built by famous architects. So they're smaller houses that sell for way more. And so if you're not experienced and you're like, oh my gosh, this is great, I can pay way more money for this house, you're going to get crushed. So being in kind of traditional University Hills versus Crisana Park, we are talking walking your dog 2 blocks, and it can be at least a $200,000 difference. So be really, really careful when you're in the MLS, use your polygon tool, draw your very specific comp map so that you don't screw yourself on like very definitive lines of like one neighborhood is significantly different and better with price point than the other neighborhood. So again, just things to think about. Update for 2026, you got to have your deal analysis spreadsheet updated. So have your comps right, have your rehab budgets right. You definitely want to have MLS filters set up so you're seeing stuff every morning come in that fit the right profile of where you want to buy. Again, sadly, with rehab budgets, we're on version 10.0 of our rehab budgeting spreadsheet. So we're updating that all the time. And so again, it's just kind of getting back to basics. So be careful of those rookie mistakes. If you want, here's a couple things that I want to deliver to you guys from a value perspective. I'm updating my investor ebook for right now because again, the market changes. So DM us or shoot us an email, info@Elevation Invest. If you want a copy of our new ebook, we're going to have that ready here in the next week or two. If you guys want to join our cash buyers list, our dispo manager has done a phenomenal job with curating that list and really sending out great deals. Again, we're sending out, 300K spreads. We just did one. Oh my gosh, it was like a 400K spread. I'm a little jealous. It actually got double wholesaled, which means I didn't have the best end buyer. So we had another person make a nice chunk of change. So shame on me for not having that buyer. That means we got a good deal. When a wholesaler can tack on another nice fee, that means we've got good deals. Or if you're a contractor and you're looking for work and you want to work with ethical investors that will feed you a lot of business, please get in touch with me. I'll hook you up with Travis. So again, another kind of quicker episode. Wanted to give you guys the answer to, is flipping dead in Denver? Hell no, it's not, but you got to do it right. You've got to do it strategic, and you've got to always stay on top of your game. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. I hope you guys have a great week. Go out there and crush it, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.
Elevation, elevation. Flip that house, man, this money for the making. We gon' get it, hustle harder every day, fam. Sky's the limit, time to make this life amazing.